Now we can swear. We're live!
We are live, folks. Hello. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. Our gracious host has took some time away and he done his absolute best to get here, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, very intimate affair. Only the three of us today. Got some... Sorry, YouTube is playing in the background. I was like, why can I hear myself? So we've got some cloud gaming news to get through this week. Not much, but very intriguing news coming from Intel. We haven't heard much from PlayStation lately, so we're going to give our thoughts, what we want to see from Project Spartacus. That should be interesting, as should the Intel news. As always, folks, this podcast will be available on all the major services via Anchor and Spotify and YouTube Music. So if you're going to listen back, those are the places. So we're winging it this week, big time winging it. Let's kick it off. Duncan, tell us how you are, what you've been playing, and which platforms.
Okay, do I have to really? Come on. But to be honest, I think you've got a brilliant way intro there. I think there's absolutely a ton of news this week. This week has got me really excited for the cloud. And because I'm in generous mode, because it's all nice and quiet here, I might actually drop some hints of some other stuff which is going on, which people don't know about, involving xCloud and GFM. Oh, and I don't think you two know about any of it as well, because I haven't spread it, because we're doing videos on it, and I've been trying to keep my gob shut about it, so I'll keep that going. So this week I have been playing on my Shield and going back and revisiting the old games. It's absolutely amazing that you can play 4K on these older games on the Shield, like Assassin's Creed. I've been going back into playing Assassin's Creed there and having a load of fun. Also, I've been messing about on my favorite game in the Spire, and it's always class playing that. It's just absolutely a load of fun, and I haven't touched Horizon yet. It is on my wish list for next week. I'm waiting for payday to hopefully get that, and I think I'm going to dive into that. I haven't been sucked into that stupid game called Lost Ark and things like that. So I've had a bit of fun and crack this week playing a ton of games. So all good.
Nice one. Intriguing to hear what you might drop, because I have no idea. I don't know if Jerry does, but why not let us know how you are, mate? What you've been playing?
I have no idea what Duncan's going to be talking about, but I'm glad he is, because I don't know anything about any of the news this week, to be honest with you. I've been locked in a room making videos or playing games, so way behind on news except for GFN basically, and apparently I don't even know everything about that because Duncan says we don't. But I've been pretty much playing Dying Light 2, which I know is not your favorite game, but that's a game I'll be going back to for a couple of years, just like the first game. I love it. But since yesterday, my attention is fully on to Horizon Forbidden West. So really only about 3 hours in, but really liking that game on PS5. They did a great job bringing that over. I don't know if anybody watched Digital Foundry's video on that, but they did a good job too of breaking that down. And while it is on the last gen consoles, they did a great job of making it feel and look great on the PS5. Feels like one of the first actual next gen games that I'm playing. So Horizon's kind of my big deal right now this weekend.
Nice. I haven't played many PlayStation games over the years, having not had a PlayStation. So PS Now is a way for me to catch up on those. You know, I don't never finish God of War. I never will. Probably it's not my sort of game. Appreciate how good it is though.
Get out!
See, you don't have to like a game to appreciate how good it is, and Dying Light 2 is the same. I don't enjoy playing it, but I do appreciate what it's like. And yes, I have been playing a lot of Lost Ark. So
But I saw your tweet. What's?
Yeah, I've hit that point where the constant back and forth quests, to reach this level 50 is just becoming a nightmare. I'm at a point now where I've unlocked a lot of things, but there's only so much you can do until I reach level 50. It's like they put everything in front of you, but you still need to keep going before you can experience it in full. And it's couple that with the server queues, having to wait 2 and 3 hours to get into the game is a bit of a nightmare. And I'm selfish.
You're already grinding to get in before you start grinding to level, and that's been crazy to see the queues you guys have had over there. Because like I said, here where I'm at, I've been fortunate to never run into a queue logging on, and I've seen what, like 18,000 people ahead or something, or people waiting 6-8 hours to get on. I just wouldn't play. I'd never make it.
I mean, it's in the beginning, it was such a good game, and you just really wanted to. I was willing to wait. The first 10 days or so, I was willing to wait. I've reached level 32, and I'm just getting sick and tired of running back and forward. I want to finish it. I want to enter the big dungeons. The dungeon runs are fantastic. So they are absolutely superb. Just ignore Ace coming in and out. This is it seems like it's going to happen. The dungeons are fantastic. You can just carry on normally. So you get the enemy levels that you do in the open world, or you can go hard. And they are a slog when you're doing it yourself. It took me 40 minutes to get through one, and only about 5 minutes of that was cutscenes. So, but it offers up a lot of exploration. You can find a ton of secrets. There's secret missions. There's secret placements for collections, and at first I was trying to 100% each continent, but you can't actually do that until you reach the level 50, I believe. So it's just became a slog, and so I went back to Cyberpunk.
The thing about MMOs is that's so typical, though, for a lot of MMOs. Like, a lot of times it's more fun to make the new character and play to level 20, 25, 30, and then you get to a point where you are just grinding quests back and forth. I remember in World of Warcraft when they came out with looking for a group in-game, like you could queue for dungeons. We all stopped running all the monotonous quests, and we would just sit there and queue dungeon after dungeon after dungeon with group and level and get everything that way. And we just stopped doing the rest of the game because it can get monotonous and overwhelming. And that seems to be the case in almost every MMO I've played.
It's a matter of I'll take a couple of days away from it and probably start fresh during the week, early Monday morning when everyone else is away, and we'll get in no problem and re-roll it and go again. But until then, we have a podcast to do here. We'll have some news. Ace is in. You want to tell that, mate?
That is the news. That is the great news.
It looks better.
How do I sound? How do I look?
You sound and look like Ace.
Do I? So
You're
just
looking
quick
much better.
for those people watching, I'm away from home, as you can tell with the background, and my Wi-Fi here is not the best. So if you hear me cutting it out, that's what's going on. But go ahead. I'm gonna let Monkey lead this one. I'm just gonna hop in and out of conversation pieces. So carry on, Monkey.
No problem at all. I think we'll just quickly run through the news that we know of this week, or that I have in front of me. Chorus, we'll start with Stadia. Chorus has a demo, which I think is great. There's a Zombie Army Season Pass, which is free for everyone. If you like that game, there's 3 new levels in the Season Pass. It's completely free. New character packs, weapons, all the things that you associate with Season Passes. 2 games came this week as well, with Dynasty Warriors 9. Ace, you covered that on the channel as well. And then there's My Hero 1's Justice 2. And if you actually look at this in the Stadia store, it's advertised as Stadia version. So I don't want to pick it up. It's not my sort of game. It's $39.99. So if anyone knows if there's any Stadia specific features in there, that would be good. I've been trying to find out, but I don't know exactly if there is just yet.
What game are you referring to?
My Hero 1's Justice 2.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's not an old game, but it's
Yeah.
not new either. Yeah, and we got a new game coming as well from Wild Productions. They've made some good games over the years there. It's called Lumote, the Master Moat Chronicles. It's coming out March 24th. It's releasing on Stadia with everyone else. And it looks like a very surreal, unique sort of puzzle platformer. It's interesting. It's not the banger that Ace would want to see coming, but it's another game coming day and date with everyone else. So, Ace, what do you think about this?
It was a decent week for Google Stadia. I mean, it was okay. So all those games that you mentioned, I actually played the most of them that released because I'm trying to get some gameplay vids for the gameplay channel, and I covered Dynasty Warriors. The game was okay. Definitely a game that I do not see myself continuing. $60, I think, is way too high for a game like that. And then the other game that you're referring to, I don't know the name, but I did do a gameplay video for it. It's fun. The cool thing about that game is they have local multiplayer co-op, so you can actually play with 4 people. So you can do like 2 and 2. So I know local multiplayer co-op is something that Stadians really enjoy. So the fact that it has that's good, but that's also another game that I don't see myself playing for a long time. So all these games that are being announced, this a theme here, right? It sounds good to add to the numbers of games come to Google Stadia, but as far as like as like are those games that people are actually gonna continue playing? That's a big question to ask. So again, we talk about quality is key here, not quantity, right? And lately for Stadia, I think we've seen a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality games coming. But yeah, that's my take on the Stadia news for this week.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree myself. Duncan, our resident Stadia hater,
Oh my God.
what's your thoughts?
What?
And by the way,
I
guys,
love how you're pushing me as the Stadia hater. I'm not going to. I don't. People who are Stadia haters who would be more of a Stadia hater on this panel than I would, but we are not going to go there, are we? Oh, this week on.
we've got a
This
lot
week
of
on.
time. So, man, I need to.
You're just trying to get your brownie points out there. So yeah, I just there's going to be there. Oh yes. No, this week on Stadia it was meh for me. It was forgettable. Nothing really bad, nothing really good. Probably for me, the highlight is Chorus going as a demo. I think that is probably the best sort of news there for this week because demo's good, get to try the surface, all that sort of carry on. So for me, it is a pretty forgettable sort of week, and the way Stadia has been going for games, this has probably been a good week for Stadia just with the number of games. Destiny Warriors coming down dead is absolutely class. But that game has been absolutely savaged in reviews, which isn't as good. I think the good news, or one of the pieces of good news this week for Stadia, along with the demo, was the Cyberpunk update as well. Got that straight away, and getting that was absolutely class. No downloads, no updates, all that sort of carry on. It came, it went. I think it's been a okay week, but it is a big week in gaming because what we've been talking about earlier with Horizon Zero Dawn, everything has just taken away from that. No matter what platform you're on, it is all about Horizon.
And not Lost Ark too has been pretty big for this week, right? So those 2 games I feel like has been pushing a lot, but yeah, which none of them came to the cloud. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then next week, I was just going to add into that. And next week we've got Elden Ring as well.
Yeah. No, very true, and you make some good points. I forgot about the Cyberpunk patch as well, and I really shouldn't because we have so many Cyberpunk videos coming up. Well, I think we have one left, but Jerry has been checking out Cyberpunk. What about the Stadia news this week, my man? What do you feel?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you guys have already said. It's not a bang up week. It's a little bit meh, but decent updates for everybody. Dynasty Warriors is great to bring. For me personally, the thing is I've played so many of those games, and the franchise has been around for so long that I've been kind of over those for a long time. The last games I really enjoyed in that style have been Hyrule Warriors on the Switch, which, combine those things together, which was my favorite recent renditions of anything Dynasty Warriors related. But it's good that it came over. For me, the big thing probably was the Cyberpunk patch. Being able to get that and have it ready immediately. I think CD Projekt Red did a pretty good job with this patch of just getting it out there for every platform ready to go. Even if they had some ready ahead of time, they didn't roll it out as a slow thing, and I think that was much better. They hit everybody at once. It certainly still has a ton of issues. I've run into plenty of game-breaking bugs still, or getting stuck places I shouldn't, or I'm driving my car and it just goes into the air and starts to go, like, just weird things that shouldn't happen. But the amount of content in that update is absolutely massive. Like, they put a lot in there. So that was probably a big thing to see happen. And I didn't play Cyberpunk after launch on Stadia personally. So 1.5 was my first time going back in since then. And that made it really cool because I was able to see all the incremental changes to the game up to now. And I was surprised to see the amount of graphical upgrades and changes to that game. And 30 FPS mode on Stadia got a lot more stable than what it was before. But with the upgrades to the high performance mode, 60 FPS still struggles and bounces all over the place. But that's not just Stadia. The 1.5 update on Xbox Series X on 60 FPS bounces 45 to 60 as well. It's still kind of all over the place. So nothing that's just Stadia related there. But for me, the Cyberpunk on there was kind of the exciting thing I messed with this week.
Yeah.
So just to say something about that real quick, Cyberpunk is a reminder of that game does a lot for Stadia, but this game coming with the patch 1.5 and then it releasing like same day shows that CD Projekt Red is still committed to this game on this platform. Think about games like Outriders, right? How long it took them to patch it. I don't know, there's just something with Cyberpunk and Stadia. And this 1.5 patch just showed that again. Like, they're still committed to, I don't know if Google paid them a lot of money, but they're still committed to supporting this game and this platform, right? For this to get this same day release is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I have a hunch that CD Projekt Red has to support Cyberpunk for as long as they're supporting it everywhere else, or at least for as long as its lifespan is for Stadia. So, and whether it was or not, I'm sure, we don't know, but it probably is. And that's one thing I did like seeing. I mean, even, we'll talk about later, but even GFN was really quick to have their update ready. I was surprised. I was like, oh, wow, I can already get on 1.5. So everybody did a fantastic job on Cyberpunk this week.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, Duncan has an interesting news piece regarding Stadia in Australia. Duncan, why don't I give you the floor with this? Because you know it better than me. And I don't want to spread misinformation.
Take the floor.
Yeah, take the floor. News broke this week that Peloton, for people who don't know, that's the exercise people, have now started to push out their cloud-based game. I forget the name of the game because I don't have any. Wait, now see, I know all about this, and you go and drop the name of the game. Yeah,
I know the name of the game.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. And it's being launched in a number of countries. One of these notable countries is Australia. And the way this is actually powered, it is actually powered through Google Stream. We better get the names right here, which is Stadia white label. So the interesting part in this is going to be available in Aussie land, but Stadia is not available in Aussie land as yet. So question marks of what that could mean. That could mean Stadia is 100% going to be launching there. It could be saying the white labeling is going to be more prominent and things like that. It's just raising more questions and not a lot of answers, but we do know it is getting pushed out there. So I think it is an
So
interesting.
do you feel like Google would be willing to like bring their tech into an area for the white labeling purpose, but then not offer Stadia in that area?
Yes.
Because that's what it makes it look like. Yeah.
When I seen this in our chat there, I was just thinking while you guys was talking, I know that's a dangerous thing. Remember not too long ago, Google had a big hoo-ha in Australia in terms of something to do with the search engine or something. It's completely lost me, but there was something to do with the Australian laws prevented certain features or something like that. I can't remember. Do we think that that's maybe partly the reason why Stadia isn't available there yet? Because they've been registered over there for quite some time. So they do. And we'll come on to companies being registered in separate countries very soon with Amazon Luna. But I mean, Doug, can I see you doing that? Money is unfortunately the root of all evil, and it can get you a lot, can lose you a lot as well. I'm disappointed that Google Stream has made it before Stadia, but I'm still convinced that we were all guinea pigs for Google Stream. And
So yeah, Monkey, I was just looking in November of last year, you're right, is when they had that little run in.
yeah,
And it was basically due to more government regulations over there. Google had threatened to pull pretty much all their services from the country. And I guess they resolved that enough to where Google has now committed almost $1 billion in services over there and that type of thing, which would explain what Duncan's talking about with their tech or white label and other things. But yeah, we're kind of fresh off that. That was only about 4 or 5 months ago.
yeah, I knew it wasn't too long ago. I just couldn't remember the exact detail. I just wonder if that has anything to do with it, really. I find Australia's not exactly a non-developed country. We're not talking South America here. I fail to see why services aren't there yet. The streaming services aren't there. GeForce Now is, but only just recently through one of their partners. I don't believe xCloud is available there yet either.
There's a simple reason. Australia is big. It's a big ass country. So
it is, but they'll have data centers just like every other country. God knows Amazon, Google, and Azure have them everywhere.
Yeah, it's just so absolutely big and all over the shop, and their gaming's weird over there. It's a lot more expensive as well for a game. So I'm just going to go back quickly to the point why I don't think it's an inevitability. I can hardly speak here. Someone give me new teeth. For Stadia to go in there, it's going to cost money because it isn't just that. It's all the licenses. It's going to be the PR, the marketing, the bodies they are going to need over there. And then it's just a whole lot of added cost there. And if there is question marks, I'm just putting it like that. If there's question marks about Stadia's future, you don't want to be launching into another country, especially with the news which is coming out. If you believe it, if you don't believe it, from the Business Insider article. I want Stadia to launch in Australia because that would be a clear sign that Google is committed to Stadia down the line. If they don't, and the longer it goes on, it just makes more question marks come up about Stadia's future. And I'm just seeing a lot of that at them going around. When you've got some of these big, massive YouTubers out there, we're talking 24 million people taking the PI from Stadia, and there's been no fight back still. I just want something.
I know what you mean. Some of the recent videos made, though, in all fairness, have been, shall we say, filled somewhat with, misguided views and misinterpreted, communications. And I mean, Google really only have ourselves to blame for that sort of thing. If the consumers don't know exactly what your product is and how it works, that's not really on them. That's obviously on Google. And there was one in particular that believed you had to have the sub and buy the games. That's not the case. We know that's not the case, but you can see why they may think that, because when you go into the Stadia website, you have to do a hell of a workaround to get onto the free side of things without signing up to Pro. So things like that are what gives off these sort of interpretations from the console, the PC gamers that don't know much about cloud gaming just yet. You could blame them for not reading into it enough and making assumptions. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to sell a product, you should make it as clear as possible to the consumer so that the mass majority of us will understand. And I just feel like that's been a big letdown for them over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think we're just retreading old ground here. Even every time, it's just really frustrating talking about Stadia because of all the potential there. Again, they've had not a bad week this week, not a great week, and it's not been a bad week. It's been a sort of week.
They're still going. They're bringing games. They're not huge games. There's been a lot of big games have released the past few weeks, and none of them have went to Stadia.
See,
all right,
we'll move
go
on.
ahead.
Well, I was just going to finally ask. So there's a few games coming out. So we've got Elden Ring, we have Grid Legends, and Shadow Warrior 3 is due out. Now, we don't have any previous Shadow Warrior games. We do have Bandai Namco games, and we do have previous Grid games. Do you guys see any of these stealth dropping onto Stadia in the coming week or 10 days?
No, no. I think we're done with stealth drop of like big games onto this platform, man. Again, just like the games I was telling you guys I covered. Go ahead, Duncan.
Okay, we could have left this for Shadow. I was just double checking. Shadow Warrior 3 is tick boxed for GFM.
Okay. I had a feeling it was coming, but no, just like I was saying, man. I kind of, when we covered the Business Insiders article, I told you guys, Stadia, like, if you are wanting AA games and indie games, then that's probably what you're gonna get with this platform. Don't expect same day release AAA games or big name titles. It's just what this platform is now, and hopefully, I want them to pick it back up to where we get these games, but keep your expectations low. That's the reality of the platform. Don't expect these games to, if they come, celebrate it, but I would just go as far as to say keep your expectations low.
Yeah, and I just want to pick up something there with that as well. All this stuff we've just talked about, we were talking about the Business Insider. We were told, no, we're absolutely talking out from our rear ends about that. We don't know what we've been talking about. And now, because of this Business Insider article coming out, it is now there's been a lot of talk. Oh, we already knew all this. It's just frustrating for me.
You make a very good point. And sometimes when you're told you're wrong or you're talking nonsense, you want to fire back and say, look, I saw this coming. It's human nature, really, but we've spent enough time in Stadia. Let's move to Luna, where only, two of us here have access.
Hold on. Because we were late, I think the other stuff are more juicier than the news. And I think they'll provide like a good discussion piece, like the Wishlist for Project Spartacus and Intel, and the LDAT that you guys covered.
Okay.
For
you
the
want to just
sake of
take over,
time,
man?
yeah. No.
Okay.
You can.
It's
But
your
let's
show,
just
though.
no. You get right into it. Let's talk about Intel. Let's just get the news. Everyone knows what happened, but I feel like these are good discussion pieces.
Okay. So Intel had an investor meeting the end of the week there, and it was a very small excerpt on the newsroom, and it got mentioned during the, I'm just trying to find it right now. It's disappeared on. It's so small in this article.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Here it is here. So, and it was mentioned as well during the accelerated computing system and graphics presentation. And I'll read this for everyone. Oh, go away, pop-ups. Project Endgame will enable users to access Intel Arc GPUs through a service for an always accessible, low latency computing experience. And it went on to say that Project Endgame will be available later this year. So I went digging, because at first, and you guys will back me on this, I said in our chat, no way will Intel be creating, a Shadow or a GFN. I said this is going to be business. Maybe it will be along the same lines as NVIDIA's Omniverse, but I could not be further from the truth with that matter, because I've done a little bit of digging, found a ton of patents online for Intel, and every single one of them relates to a cloud computing service aimed at gamers. It's very intriguing because some of the patents mention ray tracing. They mention tensor cores as well, and we know GFN has the best, most powerful cloud gaming solution right now, other than super cloud PCs that you'll pay an absolute fortune for. So it's very interesting. They say it's going to come out later this year. So what do you guys think? What are we going to see? Will this be a GeForce Now competitor, or will it be a cloud PC competitor? We know the troubles that Shadow had, but Intel are a massive company. They are got their hands in every sort of layer of the industry right now, and they're really coming for the GPU market as well. They've already showed this off. It's exciting. A new contender is about to enter the ring, and I can't wait to see what we've got. But enough about me. What do you guys think? Just feel free and jump in here. I'm excited.
All right. So Intel
I knew he was gonna.
Because as the PC gamer, PC builder, this is something we've been watching for a long time.
I love it. Go ahead.
Intel's been trying to get into the GPU game for years. And they even started back in the 80s, really, messing around. They really spent a ton of time perfecting their iGPU or like their APU, their integrated graphics, but never with the desktop so much. How you have, the way I kind of see it, how you have like green versus blue. So you got Xbox, PlayStation, you got NVIDIA, Intel. We're going to leave AMD out for a second. Okay. PlayStation is about to come out and revamp things to be a little bit more like Xbox. They'll be their own thing, but they're the leader right now in the console space. They're going to come out and kind of mimic that success a little bit with what they have. I'm expecting Intel to try to do something similar with NVIDIA. NVIDIA has what's growing to be a very successful cloud venture in the gaming space, not even counting their corporate side of things, right? Or their commercial side. So watching that, I think Intel is looking to get into everywhere. Including cloud, the same as NVIDIA. They want in your desktop, not just your laptops. They want in your workstations, which is Q3. Our desktops are Q2 for this year. So they're coming for every aspect. And I'm sure they'll be building up centers to compete with GFN as well. But I think we're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan. I don't think you're going to see immediate success on all these fronts. And if you remember when AMD came out with their new CPUs and GPUs, they had like a 3 to 5 generation roadmap to show that they weren't going to be on top yet, but then they got closer, and then they were going to be on par, and then they were going to pass, and that's what they did. And I think that's what Intel's looking. Intel says by 3rd generation Arc, so that would be 2025 to 2027, 3rd generation Arc to come out, they could be competing with something like the 3090, but in that time period, with the high-end graphics. So, yeah, I think Intel has a huge plan to, like you said, enter the ring. It's always been AMD versus NVIDIA for a long time, whether it's console or PC. I don't care if you love Stadia. I don't care if you love GeForce Now. I don't care if you love PlayStation, Xbox. You're either NVIDIA or AMD. That's all you're talking about. So now Intel's entering that ring. So that is really exciting, and I think they're going to come at it really serious. I don't think this is a come out and stumble moment for them. I think you're going to see a lot happen over the next few years.
So, question: when it comes to like cloud, Monkey was saying, do you think we'll see them take over the PC route or offer like the GFN type solution when it comes to cloud?
Yeah, that's. Do they want to offer the full blown like PC experience or just a more refined gaming, type experience? That kind of remains to be seen, but it is a lot more expensive to maintain the VMs versus what GFN's doing or what Luna's doing. And looking at Windows, like if you go try to sign up for like the Microsoft VM, like the new stuff they've come out with, it's super powerful, but I'm not paying that. Like it is not marketed for a gamer that wants to pay $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, maybe buy a couple. We're not looking to spend hundreds a month on access to this stuff. So I think they're going to go about it in the gaming sense, and that's what I want them to do. I don't want Intel to come out and be like, we're kind of in gaming and we're kind of here. If they're going to come out with GPUs in the PC space like this, it needs to be gaming focused.
Right.
Yeah. Duncan, you're very quiet there, my man.
Oh, he's absorbing.
Before I'm
absorbing.
Point, what's the thoughts?
It is exciting. More people come in, it shakes things up. And especially with Intel doing their graphics cards as well, we've been seeing the moves down that way. I can't wait to see what actually happens. For me, I think the GFN sort of model makes more sense. It's just really, really hard to call that. That's where Tom Warren went to first, was the GFN model. I just want them to bring it, and I want them to come in, and I want them to beat the 3080 tier. So GFM will have to up their game because I just want this battle to really kick off, and this is what you want as a gamer, and especially a cloud gamer, because you don't have to worry about if they go into this big massive battle in a specs race, you're going to win because you're going to be getting the rewards for that, and that's going to filter its way down. Like we're beginning to see already with GFM, with some of the priority members going on to the super pods. They're not all going to go on to them, but some of the priority members go into that, so they're getting the better access there, and that's where I see GFN going anyway. In the future, everybody just downshifts or upshifts one as the years go on, but I'm just excited. New entrant and a big entrant with a big load of ton of money coming in is just going to be class.
So you see them tapping into like the PC stores and going that whole route, kind of like GFN, versus like having their whole own front or platform.
I see them going maybe GFM route because Steam's open to that. Because if you read Steam's terms of service, they have already said GFN is like our first one, not the only one.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Now I watched through a ton of footage today with Intel's investor briefing. Like Jerry was saying, to see when these GPUs was going to hit the market. The first one's quarter 22. So on a selfish note, I'm hoping that floods the market and brings the rest of the GPU prices down. But also at the same time, I wonder, like what Duncan said there, will it be capable of being comparable, not just beating, but let's face it, the GFN 3080 tier is very powerful. Will it even compare? Because from what I'm reading, Intel won't have anything comparable to a 3080 until a good few years down the line. So what exactly is this service going to offer?
So
I feel like if it's when the GFN route that we would have heard by now, because Steam's an open book.
So keep this in mind, even though the time frame will be kind of far out on a lot of this stuff, you probably already saw in a lot of your reading and videos too, not only do they basically have the first gens, they're ready to go and ship, the second gen's already being produced
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
they've already got the mock-up, they're already making it, and then the third gen is already laid out and in its prototype stage. So while these things will take time and they'll slow their releases over time, they already kind of know where they're going to be. So I find it hard to believe GFN was able to pull off the amount of 3080 SuperPod power and capacity that they had just if they just started building those when the 3080 launched, right? They started building those way prior and had their own 3080s happening way before they hit market, probably during 2000 series, right? So even as Intel pushes out their first and second generation of GPUs, they could be building their third generation 3090 style platform ready to go before those would hit market. So kind of makes the time frame really hard to nail down on when they could offer a service like that.
Right. So I was gonna ask when they do release this. Monkey was saying it's gonna be equivalent to the 3080 tier. Meaning, like, is it 5 years down the line going to finally match the 3080, or do you think they're gonna try to like match the performance of? I don't know. I just find it interesting that they're
So
aiming
Intel
for the
has to be
3080.
right. Well, see, they're using that as terminology that we can understand in 2022.
Yeah.
But by the time their third generation Arc comes out, that's no longer competing with a 3080 or 3090 enthusiast. It would be competing with whatever's out by NVIDIA at that time.
Okay, that's
You
what
know,
I
so
was
they
thinking
would
more
be
of, yeah.
planning that out. Yeah, but to get us to
Okay.
understand,
Okay.
they're saying, you know, by third gen, we could be competing with the enthusiast cards of 3080s and
Okay.
3090s, but it would be by then a 5080 or 5090,
Yeah,
if you would. You know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right.
The biggest thing for me, I'm looking at it just now. The Alchemist layer is what's basically coming this year, and then we have what they call the Battle Mage layer, which is going to be next year into 2024, and then by 2024, 2025 onwards, that's when the Celestial comes in. So I just wonder, will they offer tiers like we see with GFN? Will they offer all sorts of different, graphics processing units across the range? It's very hard because we don't know much at all right now. I was deep in the internet, man. I was close to the dark web trying to find stuff out on this, but
Is it your normal internet searches, or was it your Intel searches?
I don't
Okay.
know.
I'll say this about the tiers, though, man. Like, because it's a good point. I hope they don't. And I'll be honest, I don't love the different tiers with GFN as much as I love GFN. It's one of my main cloud services as a big PC gamer. I love it. But I don't love the tiers. I don't really like the free tier. I'd rather there be like a 7-day free access to the 3080 so you could get the best experience and decide what you want to do. And I still don't love the priority tier all the time. Sometimes it performs great in games and sometimes it doesn't. And if Intel's coming in with their first gen GPUs, kind of like they're marketing the entry level or budget gamer at first and building up, I don't really want them to build servers based off of that. I'd really rather see them come out with the best that they can come out with, and maybe they could offer tiers based on other features that don't so much destroy the performance. And I don't even care if they want to break out RTX. You know what I mean? And those kind of things, even if you're playing on the same 3080, whatever style GPU, give us all of that, break out features, but I'd rather see similar or same hardware. I don't really like all the hardware fragmentation that GFN has at the moment.
No,
Yeah.
fragmentation's it's a big hurdle in gaming. We see it with Microsoft, different levels of Game Pass, and it's spread across. Like, you have to pay Ultimate to get cloud right now. That could change, of course. And I completely agree with you, Jerry. I said that many moons ago, the GFN free tier is a load of waffle. Having to queue just puts people off straight away. It put me off when I first tried it. And then when I got in, I was like, this doesn't look good, doesn't perform well. And it put me off going back to it for a couple of months before I jumped in to try it again. And look at us now. The GFN's the only place really that I seriously game in the cloud. One of my biggest questions here, guys, is: do you see Intel looking across the market, the cloud gaming market is very small right now. There's a lot of demand, not a lot of demand. There's a lot of fight for a very low player base compared to, historical gaming and consoles or PCs. Do you see them coming in here, looking at everyone else's mistakes, and offering a service that will make a lot of people switch away from other cloud services?
It all depends how they come in and what model they're going to be coming in as, and it's going to be really, really hard to do that. If they're coming in the GFN sort of model, they're going to have to come in at equal, basically, to what GFN's 3080 tier is. That's the bar for if they're coming in with that sort of thing. If they're coming in with a different sort of model and they go in and buy like an Ubisoft, which is being sort of mentioned in the chat as a bit of a joke, I think we should cover that, by the way, later. I think that is well worth covering, because if they get bought, that's going to change the cloud landscape significantly. It just all depends how they come in. It's the bar. I think we've seen it before. With like Luna has learned a lot from what Stadia did poorly, or what they could have done better with, and they have adapted that way. But Intel aren't stupid. I think they will, depending on the way they come in, they will shape it up to make it as appealing as possible for people out there. So if they're coming in GFN, they'll come on equal. I would say they'll probably try and come in higher than what GFN is offering, just to pull people across. If they're coming with a subscription model, their own storefront, I think they are going to come in with a big exclusive. So you go, yes, we have to jump across here and all this sort of carry on. I think they will make a splash if they are going to go really after the gamer market.
Very, very interesting. I should mention as well, actually, through the research I've been doing, this isn't Intel's first foray into cloud gaming. They teamed up with Tencent 2020, so they did, and they produced a cloud solution for Tencent's Zhangwan, probably butchering that name, but it was a cloud-based service for Android games. So, we're not talking a service that was going to run AAA games like your Cyberpunks or your Dying Light 2s, but it's certainly, an experience that they can bring over just on a grander scale. Now, Tencent aren't any mugs. They obviously chose Intel because they could provide the best solution for them, rather than rather than a Google or an Azure, whoever actually can operate in China. So it's interesting, and I think before we move on, we'll probably move on wherever Ace wants to go next. Do we have any final thoughts on Intel's name in the game now? They're entering the ring, guys.
Yeah, like a lot of you guys have said, I think competition is great. And so we don't exactly know what this is going to look like, but the fact that it's another player coming in, especially like with a name like Intel, hopefully, this wakes other companies who are potentially thinking about coming in to really get serious. Hopefully NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, we can crown them as performance king. But hopefully they don't rest on that 3080, right? Hopefully this wakes them up to, okay, there's someone you tell. Don't get too comfortable with that 3080 in the cloud. Work on making it better, bringing something else. Competition is always good for the consumers. So overall, I think this is a great thing for sure.
I couldn't agree more. Ace, where would you like to go next?
So let's talk about the LDAP, man. I'm curious
Okay.
we got two people on here who've put that to the test. How has y'all's experience been with that? And the kids go to sleep. I know this gets all nerdy and geeky, but I think it's good. Again, we get asked to test latency, right? And this is one of the best ways to do it. So what do y'all's take? You guys have compared it to other plugin platform, or what did you guys notice with the results?
For me personally, my first round of testing was all done with the GeForce Now 3080 tier, and I tested a couple of games locally as well. Very much the same. Apex Legends is like the standard beta in latency. You get like 20, 30 milliseconds locally. And then on GFN, for me, 3080 tier with a 30 to 40, somewhere in there, round trip to the data centers, I was tagging 70 to 80 milliseconds. And I just find that incredible. Apex is, as I say, it's one of the best games in terms of latency. But to even get to a point where you don't feel it, because myself, like Jerry, who has been PC gaming for quite some time, we feel latency straight away. If there's any sort of misframes, any sort of stream dips in compression, it does become very noticeable when you're used with having 20, 30, 40 milliseconds locally quite often. So I was just surprised to see the Apex was so close. Anything around about the 100 millisecond mark is very hard to feel. Once you start going above 100 milliseconds, you can really notice it. And I'm trying to put this in a simple term. So for instance, one of my booster rate tests coming up, the latency is so high that LDAT software doesn't even bother giving you an average. It's way off the scale. So as it's too far off the scale that I had to calculate it myself, which was very tedious. The LDAT's supposed to prevent that with the way it's designed and the software behind it. It's been very interesting, is what I will say. Remember, we have Boosteroid and GFN have local Windows PC apps, and the latency changes from there to the browser, so they do. And then the latency is going to change as well, depending what type of device you're playing on, whether it's a laptop screen or whether it's a PC monitor, whether it's a TV. And because they all have different refresh rates, different response times as well, it's just been very, very interesting. What I will say is the 3080 tier is the closest to local, but the rest aren't too far away in terms of one of my recent experiences, and I feel like I'm just sort of dribbling on right now. I'm gonna give Jerry his chance before I say everything that needs to be said. It's been interesting. That's just...
I think what you found out, which was the same thing I found out, right, when we added up our latency, our round trip delays, our differences in our ping and everything, was that everything we've talked about since November with the 3080, all the things we've tried to describe with the mouse and controller and how it feels, were validated through this data and through these numbers. That was a super exciting thing for me to see. Apex Legends is a freaking showcase game when it comes to latency, and that includes cloud, right? I got an average on my local 28 milliseconds, which, like you said, 20 to 30, 20, 32, you'll get on that. I got 46 as an average on GFN on 120 FPS. Insane, which beat my 55, 60 FPS locally, right? So the GFN 120 beat my local at 60. That's pretty phenomenal. Also, if you take the 46 and the 28, that's what, like 18 milliseconds? Well, that was my exact ping I had to GFN at that time. There was no additional latency in the server. Like nothing to, it's so fast the way they have it set up. And that's what made the big difference. And that's what was so exciting to see. Control was an interesting one for me because that's a game much like Cyberpunk that is not optimized to be a shooter, and there's much more latency when you play that game, even locally. So my local PC was 66 milliseconds in Control versus 28 average in Apex. But the GFN 120 got me 74 milliseconds average, like 8 milliseconds difference was all I had when I compared the two. That was incredible. And at 60 FPS, Stadia was 116 and GFN was 112, and they felt identical at 60 FPS. But you turn that 120 on at 1080 or 1440, I don't care what resolution you're at, you turn 120 FPS on GFN, and you are coming way down. You're shaving 30, 40, 60 milliseconds sometimes off of your score. So it was super exciting. Them sending out the LDATs, us being able to test the local and the cloud and get into that. I was kind of scared at first, like, oh God, what are these results going to show? I've been saying it feels so good. What if I'm looking at like 150 milliseconds and I'm like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? And no, it just validated everything and explained everything I was feeling. So it was really exciting. It was really a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to a lot more testing with that.
One of the things... Oh, sorry,
I was going to say, Duncan, sorry. Duncan, are you following, bro? Yeah, man.
Yes, I sometimes just act along like I'm stupid in a lot of things. Just answer the things. Yes, I know what you guys are talking about there, so don't be worried. See, what you're talking about there was one of the reasons we're not 100% sure of getting into all that sort of carry on. I'm just worried I would do something completely and utterly wrong and not get the right figures and panic that it was all sort of up the complete left.
Now, I'll say the first 4 days, I think me and Hell Monkey lost a lot of sleep. When it came to getting into it, but once you got the hang, you're all right. But definitely dipping toe at first was a little bit hectic, I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, it is scary diving into something. Now, listen, we have a good understanding of, how to calculate latency, why different factors affect it. And remember, you have so many factors when streaming games. Is your connection stable enough? Like, i.e., who's all watching Netflix and taking up that bandwidth? Are you on your own channel, on the router, etc.? If you need to be. Most people don't know this. Most people just connect to Wi-Fi and win a game. So trying to put that across as well. And then you have your round trip delay. Jerry, you have an optimal connection. I have a less than perfect connection, and decided for my showcase video on this that I would test it during my peak hours, where I know that my latency will fluctuate, because again, a number of reasons. The network is overcrowded because everyone's at home at this point. Everyone round about my area who will be gaming on GFN will be doing so at the same time as me. Then there's the games that you're playing as well. The in-game servers, the servers that these games are hosted on, have a latency to sort of not calculate, but to take into consideration as well. Jerry, you mentioned something I was going to mention. The difference between the 60 FPS stream and 120 FPS is phenomenal. And I found 1080 120 was really good for latency. So dropping your resolution to 1080 and streaming at 120 FPS sort of provided the best latency results for me. But dipping it up to 1440 wasn't much difference. It didn't add a lot streaming at that higher resolution, which I was really surprised about.
I've actually got a sensible question here. It's going to shock you. It's an actual sensible question here. See, I do come off of these. I told you I can put my sensible head on. Have you tried it with the AI enhancing?
No.
And does that make it? Does that make it? See, yes, it's actually surprised I can actually come up with actually sensible.
Good. That's good. Great question.
No,
that's a whole separate video,
question.
Man. That's
exactly
gonna be a whole separate. Yep.
There's a whole separate thing where we're going to sit down and talk about this later as well. So a more professional, shall we say, talk about the latency differences.
Once we've done lots of professionals.
Once we've done a lot more testing as well, and we can compare our results, because we have two sides of the coin, where I have like double Jerry's latency. So I think it's good for us. We can give everyone a sort of better idea of what to expect. Jerry has an optimal round trip delay. I have a less than optimal, but still fully playable, server thing. So it's me and Jerry love doing this sort of thing, but it burns you out very quickly. So it does.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. Like, I mean,
CSGO.
Every single test scenario is restarting the game, changing your monitors, FPS, changing resolution, going back into the game, matching it up again. So for every single data point you need to get is a new resolution, new frame rate, new boot up of the game. And when you're talking cloud and GFN too, that takes time to go in and out, in and out, in and out, change the app settings. So even something like the AI upscale I wanted to show in the earlier videos, but it's too much. We need to break it out. You're working on another latency video. I'm working on GFN versus Shadow. We'll have the upscaling video, but it takes time. And I honestly burned out that first 4 days and put it away. And I'm just now going to be getting it back out this weekend to start again. So, but it's fantastic. It's wonderful to have it.
I'm glad you guys like doing those things, man. You would never catch me trying to. Hell no. But kudos to you guys, man. Good stuff.
No, thanks, guys. It's good for what we like to do as well. So we like to gather the information and share it across our channels. Our information differs, on a daily basis. But it just offers up a better representation of what to expect, because when you mention cloud gaming to someone that's heard of it but doesn't try it, they immediately go, input lag, in the most stupid way. They've never tried it, or they've tried it once and it wasn't performing to the best.
I got a question over in the comments. It says from I'm Reza that says, do any of y'all play competitive shooters on GFN 3080? Does the latency show itself in those moments? I know what moments you're talking about. It's that sweaty moment where that last bullet, whether they hit you or you hit them, matters. For me, all cloud gaming at 60 FPS, if I'm getting sweaty, if I'm getting in competitively, is a problem for me in those moments, as we've kind of talked about with the latency here already. But at the 120 FPS, I love to play like Splitgate on GFN, and that's a Halo style, Portal style, really fun, fast pace. And I can play almost as well on GFN 3080 120 as I can locally. Almost. It's really close. So in those moments, I feel confident. Like when I'm running in at 120 FPS on GFN's 3080, when all that's working well, I have the same amount of confidence going into the battle as I do on my local PC. But if you switch me over to 60 FPS in the cloud, I change my play style completely. I don't have that confidence running around. I don't have the same feeling. So depending on how you're playing, but at the 120, I do find it being fine, being okay for competitive, especially Apex or Splitgate. I love on there.
So
it's so. Sorry,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was a very good question, Jerry. Thank you. Staring right at it, completely missed it. One of the first games I tested on the 3080 tier was Rogue Company. Used to play that game religiously, locally, so I did, and I was competitive. There was a few Scotch words creeped into the language while playing, shall we say. So I thought, I haven't played this for about 9 months, got the 3080 tier, and thought, jump in, I can pick it back up very quickly. And I told myself if I was competitive, that the 3080 tier was good, because you need it to be smooth. Rogue Company is somewhere in the middle. It's not too slow. It's not a sort of slow game like Destiny 2, but it's not a Splitgate. It's not an Apex. It's somewhere in the middle, and I had fun. I was top of the leaderboards, got back into the swing of things really, really quickly, and I just thought, this is very, very good. There is a split moments when your stream dips and you lose the sight, you lose the enemy in the sight, and it's very frustrating. But 95% of the time, it was fine. But it's just that 5%. But then again, I have a mid-30s round trip. Not everyone has that. Some people have it lower, so you will get 99% rather than my 95%. So, in certain games, yes.
Yeah, it's crazy how you have to take all that into consideration, man. Like when I game, like I don't think, man, if only I had 120 FPS. Like if I'm playing 30 FPS, I'm trying to get a headshot, man. And like if I get a headshot, like damn, I suck at this game, man. But realistically, you do have to think about these things, man, because they do matter. Latency in the cloud. All those little tiny details matter, but shit, if seriously, if I didn't know you guys, I probably will be gaming 30 FPS and still trying to get headshots, man. But kudos to you guys, man. You know,
Yeah,
kudos to you
and
guys.
I do not want to upgrade to a 120 hertz monitor because I know as soon as I do that, I won't be able to go back to 60.
Wait, you're on a 60 hertz monitor,
Yeah.
Duncan?
Oh,
Yes.
man.
No,
Here we go.
No,
Here we
come
go.
on.
Duncan, this
You're
is
killing
what
me.
I have to deal with here.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
see,
what I have to deal with.
Because I know if I was to get that, I would have to play everything at that, just like I'm having to play everything at 60 now.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, no.
You got a
Yeah.
PS5, you got a Series X, you got a PC. Get on board.
No, but I have made the conscious decision not to get that or 144
Ever?
until we're at the position where I can play that.
Where
at a
most
consistent-
thing, I got you.
Yeah,
Where
or
most
cons-
no, I get it because I'm spoiled too. Like I literally won't play certain things if they won't hit a certain mark anymore. Like I get it,
Duncan,
and
that
that's
might
why
be a-
that's why Ace plays cloud only because he knows if he gets too sucked in his life,
Oh man,
it's gonna be
it's
tough,
so
man.
true.
It's gonna be
so
tough.
true.
But
Yeah.
I just want to pick up that point there by Victor. I think that is absolutely spot on. And I'm going to mention the Switch. I think most of us are playing on their Switch, and people are getting excited with the new Wii Sports coming out, or I am anyway. For me, as long as you bring the games, that's all what matters.
Well, but as far as
Same
Stadia
here.
being last gen, yeah, all good, man. It's not. It's
Same here.
the hardware is the second, the content is the first. You do want the performance at a certain games, but it does become about content first. That's what it comes down to with Stadia. As far as their hardware is concerned, they could still do a ton with it. They just aren't at the moment. Avatar is coming up. That will be an interesting one.
Will it be exclusive to
see.
something?
It's a next-gen only game, so it's not coming out on Xbox 360 or Xbox One or PS4 or any of that. It's going to be, the series consoles, the PS5, PC, and Stadia. So that'll be
and
Luna.
Force now.
Maybe.
But that's
Luna.
not coming the end of the year though. Like we
It
still
is,
have a
it's-
while to go.
no, they've said it's coming this year. If
Yeah.
it goes
Yeah,
like
end
this-
of the year. Yeah, like fall when the
They
movie
pushed it
comes
out. It was a spring release, and they pushed it to fall. So it's hard to tell when that's going to come.
Since we're going to Ubisoft, can we discuss what
Yes.
happens if they
Go
go?
on, Duncan. I was just going to say the same thing.
He's itching. He's itching for
Itching.
it. Let's do it.
Yeah, because if Ubisoft wants to get bought up by someone, that could have some serious repercussions in the cloud. And we're not just talking Stadia, we're talking Luna, we're talking GFN, we're talking everybody, depending who buys them.
So tell them more about that because they might not know what you are meaning about Ubisoft
Okay.
wanting to be bought. Yeah.
Okay. During the week, Ubisoft had their investors call. These are boring, usually, most of the time. It's very, very dry. See, they do their geeky things with putting things on the monitors to check all the frame rates. This is my geeky thing where I sit and listen to investors' calls. They hear what's coming out and all that. There was a couple of interesting things. But the big thing coming out from Ubisoft, if you remember a couple of years ago, they were trying to get bought by Phil something, I don't know. They were trying to get bought by some company beginning with D. And they were going, no, we do not want to be bought. The mood music has completely and utterly changed now from, yes, we can still stay independent, but we would look at being acquired now. We're in that situation where money is beginning to talk, and they are not off the table now, so somebody can come in and buy them.
After 70 billion, man, I'm sure everyone is like changing their minds about wanting to be acquired. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so that's basically it.
Yeah, but I'm curious, Duncan. Sorry, Monkey. What do you think about we've already got PlayStation in a deal for Bungie, and we've got Microsoft in a deal for Activision Blizzard and all these things happening, and they're not likely to enter into any more new deals soon, right? So who else would possibly buy them unless they got bought later by one of the big.
Can I
Oh.
say something about this?
Of course.
Okay, this is what I told you guys, right? It makes here's all right. So y'all are gonna probably not like this statings who are in the shot, but it should be Google. It should be Google. And that shows how serious I think Google is with Stadia and gaming as a whole, right? If Google is going the consumer route, not the business route with gaming and cloud gaming, Ubisoft has experience with creating games for your platform. They're a good dev that have a lot of killer IPs. They will expand your portfolio. I mean, they have IPs that Amazon and anyone else can only dream about creating. Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's not going to be anywhere close or more than what Microsoft paid for Activision. Google is the best candidate for this acquisition, and it just to me goes to show like how serious and how committed they are in the gaming space if they do this or if they don't do it, right? So I would say Google right now.
I would add
Yes.
Amazon as well. I think if them two came on board, they would really shake. But I've got other thoughts about that Hellmonkey because he's jumping into bit there because I just wanted to get
No.
that before.
I know, I'm glad you said that because I was going to say, first of all, I believe Ubisoft was or is valued around the mid 30 billion. So is it higher? Is it more than that?
Lower the
Is it
market cap.
lower?
It's
Yeah,
about 6 or 7 billion. It's not
Yeah,
actually.
the market.
Relatively speaking, it's not that big.
Okay, so maybe I'm.
I think it's maybe Take Two.
Yes.
Oh, by the
Sorry.
Take Two's being mentioned by for Amazon, but we'll go on to that.
There's always these things floating around. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's say 10 billion. Right, let's just say nice round figure, 10 billion. If Google, if what the Business Insider article was saying is true, and we sort of believe it to be because that's the way it's been sort of perceived and heading over the last couple of years, I really don't see Google putting up that money. It seems like their focus is mainly on the business. I could be wrong, but I don't see Amazon going there. I think Amazon might buy smaller studios and incorporate that into Amazon Studios and build out from there. Again, I could be wrong. One thing's for sure, it's interesting to see them basically saying they're open to be bought. Why that may be, and whoever buys Ubisoft has got a lot of fragmentation. We see that a lot. They have studios all across the world that would need to be managed. Obviously, the French studio is the main one, but Canada's probably the next big one in Montreal. So it's whoever, if they do buy Ubisoft, I don't think it will PlayStation or Xbox. They've made too many recent acquisitions. I think PlayStation's next one, and I don't know why it hasn't happened already, will be Square Enix. Duncan's shaking his head.
Why are you shaking your head? I'm curious.
I think it's going to be someone else. I think Square Enix is too obvious, and it's maybe Square Enix makes 100% sense for PlayStation. But I just don't see it happening. There's just something telling me that.
Is that a case of if they were going to do it, they would have done it by now?
I think it's because of the. We'll talk about this when we talk about GFL. I think it's because of the split between the two companies. You've got the Eastern and the Western. The Eastern is 100% on board with PlayStation, while the Western sort of seems to be more in the Xbox sort of field. So they're sort of spreading their wings both ways. So Square Enix is.
So can I say something? Square Enix is going to be bought. And I will tell you one company who is like will throw down any opportunity to get, that's Microsoft. We know how bad. They've tried to reach in the Japanese market and failed multiple times. If they own Square Enix, they can penetrate that market and grow from there. Now, the issue is that Sony and Square Enix have a really tight relationship, and I don't think they're going to pass that up. So it's going to be quite interesting. I personally feel and believe they're going to get acquired. But who's going to do it is going to be the question, because I can see Microsoft willing to pay more than they've been asking to get them under the umbrella. But the thing, they're both Japanese companies, Square Enix and Sony, and loyalty is key. So will they take less, and stick to the PlayStation brand? But I think it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time, personally.
So I would say, Ace, man, like you would be spot on that Google would be the maker censor of buying Ubisoft. The problem is the only way that is worth it to them is if it became exclusive to Stadia, because that would be the draw. That would be the catalyst that would bring the new gamers, right? Because that's what Stadia needs. Stadia has a base that love a lot of what they do. But to get new gamers in by the hundreds of thousands or millions, you would need something like Ubisoft exclusively on Stadia. And I don't know that would be in the cards. And the other thing that I find interesting is that this year Ubisoft put Extraction on Game Pass and then announced that Ubisoft Connect is coming to Xbox. Not to PlayStation, not to anywhere else yet, to Xbox. So there's already some things happening over there that though we're sitting here assuming Microsoft wouldn't buy another, they could.
I just want to jump into Jerry here just to back up his point. They were very coy with the Xbox deal. I think we're going to hear more out from that in the coming months. They didn't really want to go into bits.
It was like super minimal detail, just saying, such and such was coming. But it just makes it more difficult to pinpoint who would buy what and do what with it. And the other thing we never talk about, because it's a little harder to break down who can afford what, is studios buying studios and merging, that way. Like we've seen things happen with Take-Two buying Zynga because Take-Two wants to bring games to mobile more than they want to bring them to cloud. That's kind of their thing right now, which is why you're seeing so much Rockstar get removed from a lot of the cloud, I believe, because they're bringing more mobile versions of those games later. So, yeah, there could be also all sorts of those types of acquisitions as well. Especially when we're talking about those small numbers, like $6, $7, $8 billion now, just a couple of bucks. But anything could happen, right? But I don't think Google would do it. I don't see them dropping the money and getting into it. I still think they're sort of seeing Stadia as they don't know yet. Like you said, indies and AA's right now, and kind of figuring out what they want to do with that. I think Amazon would be first, but it's difficult. It's really difficult.
See, I would place Ubisoft into nearly the same camp as I would put EA. I think they would be better suited merging, as you said, with a publisher. EA, I think, is not going to be bought by a first party, or because of the sports games. Right. I think it'll just become in DMS. I think Ubisoft, because of they have spread their wings over so many different services and get themselves baked into Luna, and they've got baked into Stadia as well. I think they would become a bit of a nightmare. So I see them maybe merging with someone to protect themselves, to become a big powerhouse third publisher for the subscription models and the exclusive content going here, there, and everywhere. So Ubisoft, from a general cloud point of view, we'll just get back to that point. I think depending who gets them, it could be an absolute nightmare for all the big major cloud services. We'll say Take-Two, who are cloud skeptic, would they start going, Ubisoft isn't going on anything going forward? See,
whether it be a publisher or a platform like Xbox or PlayStation, if somebody like that buys Ubisoft, you could lose Luna and Stadia titles because of the cloud wars and the content wars that are here and coming and all of that. Yeah. Absolutely, it could be a big impact on those two services, more so on Stadia than Luna, to be honest, right now, because Ubisoft is their AAA pony right now.
So if Microsoft ends up, I know it's a big stretch, but if they do end up acquiring Ubisoft, it's like I'll just say this: it's a dagger to Stadia, man. You know, first like Bethesda, huge supporters since launch. Boom, got them. Right, Call of Duty's been a game everyone's been dreaming to get in Stadia. Boom, bought them. Right, and then the other biggest Stadia supporter is Ubisoft. Boom, got them. It's like, what? Just gonna be real. What else? Is left for Stadia, man. It's gonna be quite interesting. But yeah, I don't know, man. Some people hate this, but I think it's exciting, man. I think this just makes competition better and wakes people the hell up to what's going on. And hopefully, I mean, Bungie. People were saying that deal was, in the talks for a long time, but I wouldn't be surprised if that deal was rushed, after that Activision announcement, man. It's a good damage control news, But anywho, it's just quite interesting what's going on.
It's what I would say about that is I think yes, the Bungie deal I think has been in the works for a while. I think the Activision deal just sped up the final dottings of the I's and crossings of the T's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to get it out there.
Yeah, and remember,
they said that deal took place in December, right? So it's not too long ago. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the thing is as well, the Activision deal, from a technical standpoint, isn't complete. It's very rare for a company to put it out there that, tell everyone we are set to acquire, and then it doesn't happen. It's going to take something.
NVIDIA.
So yes, and that was going to be my next point. We've recently seen it with NVIDIA trying to buy ARM, but that's a different industry, and there's still a whole host of developers and publishers available to the rest of the players in the gaming industry. So I don't see it falling at all. We touched on PlayStation for a wee bit there, Ace, and I know you want to talk about Project Spartacus.
Yeah.
If no one has much left to say about Ubisoft, I'm going to give you the floor on this. It's your show after all.
Sure. So poor Sony, man. We try to give them love, but time always runs out, or we just don't have enough time. But let's shed some light onto what's going on. So you guys might not. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Project Spartacus, which has been rumored to be Sony's answer to Xbox Game Pass. Not a lot of detail has been released for this platform, but I'm hoping and assuming that they're seeing everything Microsoft is doing with Game Pass and they're going to try to compete. That means, right, we'll get a update or upgrade to PlayStation Now. My hope is that we start seeing the first party studio games on the platform again if they're trying to compete with Xbox Cloud Gaming. That would be something that they would eye or try to do. So we're just gonna talk about like our wish list, what we'd like to see for this platform, and I just mentioned some of them, right? I would just name 3 things, right? Improve quality when streaming, PlayStation Now or Spartacus onto more devices. Again, not only accessible through your PC, right? Mobile devices, Android TV, we'll love to see that. And then same day releases. A way that Sony can one up Microsoft Xbox Cloud Gaming. Again, Microsoft have been talking for quite some time for you to be able to purchase your games from the marketplace and play in the cloud. If Sony can come out the gate and say whatever you buy from the PlayStation Store, PlayStation Network, you can play right in the cloud with Project Spartacus. That's one up in. So that and for the first party studio games in the cloud, same day release would be great. But an announcement soon too. That'll be awesome. But again, that's my wish list. Just want to open it up to you guys. What would you guys like to see with this platform? And do you think we'll even see it?
More devices was my biggest thing. I've always said PlayStation Now isn't truly a cloud solution because it's only available on PCs. We get a sense that's coming. I'm going to go back to the searching of patents online. Sony, oh my God, Sony applies for so many patents on a weekly basis. It's unbelievable. So sifting through them all, you do find a lot that point towards mobile, streaming games over 4G and 5G connections. So it is coming. When it's going to come, I don't know. Yeah, more devices, and we always say not the perfect cloud solution, but for Xbox, for instance, we want to be able to buy games on a cloud only, or if we buy a game, we get access to the cloud version so that we can play while the other one's downloading. You know, in an ideal world, I hope PlayStation does that as well. I hope they don't fragment it as much as what Game Pass is like, but it looks like it's going to be that way. I don't think we're going to see any exclusive titles within a year. I think Sony have got the big. They've got a lot of consoles. They sell a lot of consoles. They don't want to give that up because cloud will become adopted. The better it gets. So I don't think we're going to get exclusives within a year. Would love for God of War to come to Project Spartacus day and date, and within 30 seconds of the game releasing, I could be sitting here playing on my mobile, my tablet, my PC, my TV.
Right.
That would be, in an ideal world, superb. But I think they're going to be strategic with it. They're not going to give too much, but they're going to offer more than what they are right now. That's the biggest thing for me. They have to offer more to compete in that space. And it's a small space, remember, but Sony have the IP, they have the content. You know, PlayStation Now as a service right now has got a ton of good games. They're aging games, but they're still really good games. So they are. Offering that up in more devices straight away would be a step forward. Again, much like Intel, it's exciting because the day is going to eventually come when we find out what it is, and then we get to sit down here and discuss it all again and break it down, and I like this but I don't like that, they should have done this because we're experts, you know. Yeah, so exciting, man, but I want to see more devices straight away, accessible in more places.
For sure. Yeah. Can I just say something real quick? As you thought, Talking Monkey, this thought came to me, and just want to know what y'all think about this. I would like Sony to be purchased, and I would like Apple to purchase Sony.
Hallelujah.
No,
I actually
seriously, it makes sense. You look at Apple; they all about like perfection, right? When they release something, it's got to be like perfection. And Sony is like that with the first party studio games, right? It's all about like perfection, right? So again, they're buying quality when they buy. I mean, my thing is, I want them to operate like Beats does, right? So again, if you guys didn't know, Apple purchased Beats, the Beats headset that you see, but Beats is still doing its own thing. Like they're not even acquired, but then they have the money to do whatever they want, right? To expand, to get better quality stuff, right? So imagine if Sony has the financial backing of Apple, right? Now Microsoft is not that big of a threat to them, right? They can make acquisitions if they need to. I'm just saying. I don't think Sony can survive by themselves, and it'll make sense for them to be acquired. And if anyone's gonna acquire them, I do want it to be Apple. Just saying. Anyway, someone else can talk about Spartacus, and just let me know what are your thoughts about that acquisition.
Oh man, I mean, you know me, I love Apple for a lot of stuff. I don't want to see. I don't necessarily want to see that. I guess it depends on how it was done, because there's just a lot that I really do love about PlayStation over the years and Sony and the things they've done. So I guess it would depend on how that panned out. And of course, for Apple, it wouldn't just be a gaming thing, right? They would get content in general. Like if they could buy Sony in
Exactly.
general
Yep.
for their TV shows, their
Yep.
movies, their
TV
gaming
shows,
division.
exactly.
It would
Yep.
be insane,
Music.
and maybe something,
Music.
maybe something great could come out of that. But it's something I haven't really thought a lot about. That would be interesting. As far as the Spartacus thing, I would love to see the merger of PS Now and PS Plus and the whole Game Pass model thing come, day and date releases and all of that. But I think what we'll see is Sony's going to come at it from a different angle, where their licensing should probably allow them to allow you to purchase first party games like say God of War, Horizon Forbidden West or whatever, and that would be on cloud for you, but not for everybody. Like I don't think Sony's going to instantly include their first party games like Microsoft has done, but I think they might be the first to the table with purchases supported in the cloud only for first party or games that they can control the rights. It won't be for all games yet. And I could see Microsoft eventually doing the same thing, saying, okay, you could buy all these first party games and they'll be in the cloud for you. But, you know, we're working on licensing to bring more. You know what I mean?
But do they need to, though?
They don't need to, but they did
already
make the
have
promise
the
that they
first
would.
Yeah, they did.
Right. But what if you didn't have to pay? What if they? Because we know they're going to change the subscription model eventually. I don't believe we stay with a $15 Game Pass Ultimate that is PC, console, cloud. They're going to eventually get cloud to a point where it's good enough to offer it as a standalone service. And Microsoft, everybody makes money on software. I don't care if it's local hardware we're talking about, hardware in the cloud. Nobody makes money on that. They make money on software. So Xbox could even offer you access still at 1080p 60 to the cloud for free if they wanted to. But you could buy the first party games there. Now they've made more money than they would have made. Anyway, there's so many different avenues that they can go with it. They don't need to, but I think Sony would be smart to allow purchases of first party games to show up on cloud right away if they didn't offer them in the sub.
Right.
I think they could go that route.
Right.
More devices, more powerful hardware, but I'm more interested to see how they shuffle the content. Like they're going to change PS Plus and PS Now, and I want to know how they're going to shuffle their content around and how we're going to access that in the future besides just our typical purchases now.
So I have a counterpoint.
True.
I have a counterpoint to Ace wanting Sony bought by Apple. Sony has PlayStation, they have TVs, they have music. I don't see what benefit it would be, and would Apple even be allowed to buy Sony? I think we're sort of crossing lines here, and I'm going to give it to Duncan so that he stops doing what he's doing.
You're on to one of my specialist subjects.
I was stealing what he was going to say, right?
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, I'm going to counter your points about what it doesn't make sense for Apple. With a couple of things, I think what I would agree with you with is the possible antitrust sort of stuff and all that sort of. I think that would be the biggest sort of hurdle there. Apple is coming for gaming, and we're already seeing it with Apple Arcade. There's stats out there. Apple's one of the biggest game producers out there, or per revenue, and you're not even taking gaming seriously at this moment in time, but they will be. We know that they've got a cloud gaming patent already out there. It's been out there for ages. We know they are building VR and AR. What's one of the biggest drivers of that?
Cloud.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not cloud. Games on them sort of services are going to be needed there. Apple and Sony teaming up just makes sense in so many ways. It's I compare PlayStation and Xbox to Android and iOS. And Sony is iOS. It's the higher quality. You see that. Well, Xbox, you get more and things like that. It's still both services are good in their own way, and it makes sense to bring them all together. I'm not going to go on about that, but I hope that happens because I am filming this here on my iMac with my iPhone there. I'll be going up to watch my Apple TV while I'm on my iPad. I am completely and utterly hooked into the Apple ecosystem here. Regarding what I want for Project Spartacus, what my wish list is, I wish this is it's going to be $1 a month. All the big, all the big games from day and date and all that. What I actually think we're going to see, I think it's going to be smoke and mirrors regarding the cloud. I think it's just going to be rebranded, and we're just going to get basically more of the same. We may start to get a more regular release schedule instead of being once a month. They'll do what Xbox is doing and just having a couple every week, and maybe just increase the numbers in that. I think the biggest changes are going to be on the console side rather than the cloud side. I think they're just going to take over the cloud side. We may get PlayStation 5 stuff. We may. Or they may talk about it as coming soon. But I don't think the cloud is going to be a big push for them. But I do think we may get on other devices down the line. So
I was just going to say, guys, I have a quick question. Just quickly before we get to that, I just feel like Apple and Sony have their hands in the same markets that you mentioned, VR, for instance. If Apple buys Sony, who wins there? Like, does one of them
It's
have
not
to
a
cut the
win.
VR off,
It's to help each other out. Sorry, Monkey. Help
Yeah,
each other
no,
out.
that's fine.
It's not a win.
So I think we're focusing. We're focusing Project Spartacus here as what's going to be the different level of tiers, what's it going to look like on consoles. We're going to get into TVs, etc. I think one thing we're missing here is the stream quality. Is that going to improve? Because right now it's 1080. Is that going to get better?
I don't think it needs to go to 1080 it doesn't need to go to 4K or 1440p. For the market they're going to be pushing this into, 1080 is going to be fine if they expand it out to other devices. If you're playing on PC, I was absolutely shocked. I played it on PC a couple of weeks ago and I was shocked how good it was. I've got the Nvidia card, though it does the ups. It was absolutely fantastic. It actually shocked me how good it played.
Not everyone has the Nvidia card to get that with. I noticed if you don't use the AI upscaling and the super sampling that your Nvidia card can do with the PlayStation Now client, it's just subpar. Like on par with worse than xCloud for me right now. It was really difficult. Stick that on, and your local GPU does a lot of the work in the background and makes it much more stable. And that's how I enjoyed God of War for a good 10 hours before I eventually gave up because I was on the same level for 2 days. But if they're going to come to more devices like we think they are based on their patents, what is it going to look like with these devices though? Is it going to be locked to 720, on mobiles? And what's a big gripe for everyone with the Steam Deck, one of the only things is the 720, but that looks fine on a smaller screen. How many devices is it going to be available on as well? Are we going to see these things? Because this is what xCloud's doing. This is what Stadia and Luna and GFN are looking to offer as well, is getting their platforms and services in the hands of as many gamers as possible. Do we see PlayStation making that shift in focus and accessibility, or is it just purely going to be based on tidying up the fragmentation as it is now and maybe putting a few more?
I think you're going to see something interesting in cloud soon. The tech that we use all the time locally, right? Especially Monkey now, DLSS on an NVIDIA card makes unplayable games playable. It makes lower frames high. And not only that, the picture quality with DLSS is often, like most of the time, better than the native resolution. Like there's games you can go into, Control's a great one. You can run that 1440p native resolution and all the writing in the game is still fuzzy. It's horrible. But as soon as you use DLSS, all of that becomes crisp and the game gets really clear. And it's amazing. And AMD's doing a lot with FSR for that, right? That's their version of DLSS. We have this for hardware. We have it on the server side. We have it on our PC side running the apps like for PS Now. But what we don't have yet is that same style and quality of tech when it comes to cloud stream quality. And that's, I think, somebody's going to crack that code. Somebody's going to get there. And I'm not talking about like Stadia's 4K upscaled compressed stream. I'm talking about true DLSS or FSR AI quality upscaling where you never need to push your stream harder than 1080 for it to look like native 4K. The first person to do that brings features, brings another leap in quality, and that's what I'm waiting for. The piece of tech in cloud that comes that takes those features to the stream, and I think that's going to be one of the next big leaps that we see in the next year or two.
That's awesome. To answer this, Andreas, so Sony's good right now, and like I've stated, the next 5 years they don't need to worry. But seeing how aggressive Microsoft has been, again, Microsoft's not the only trillion-dollar company that's eyeing gaming, right? We know Amazon is really looking into it. We know Google, we know Tencent. We've just named a few. Disney, potentially Verizon, all these companies are going to get into this game. Now, if you look at the market cap, Sony has nowhere close to the market cap of any of these trillion-dollar, even I will go as far as to say $500 million company. The market cap is somewhere around 60 to 80 billion. And so yeah, they're gonna need help financially to compete. I'm not saying PlayStation's not killing it right now, but in the future of acquisition is the game, is the game that most of these companies are gonna be playing. Yes, they're gonna need help. That's all I'm saying there. But yeah.
Yes, I completely disagree. I think Sony is in an absolutely spot on sort of position because they have something which Microsoft are striving for at this moment in time. It's something that Nintendo have. It's something which Luna doesn't have at this moment in time, really, and Stadia does not have, and that is the content. People will come there no matter what and go there and play the games. And you can just look at in streaming services we have now, in movies and TVs. People buy Disney because of Disney Plus because they've got the content there. You've got HBO. We don't have it over here, but I know it's big in the States. HBO, where you go there and you get that. That is what's going to happen. PlayStation is going to be the quality. They're going to be the HBO of the gaming world. You go there, you get your big hitting big adventure games like your Horizon, your Last of Us, your Uncharted. For me, I'm Uncharted and God of War. They're my two favorites on PlayStation. You know what you're going to be getting there. So I think they're going to be okay. They're carving out their niche, and we can see the changes they're actually making in their job listings going forward. They're going live service for their games as well as building towards the stunning games like Horizon, which I'm so looking forward to actually playing next week when I get my hands on it. So yeah, I think it's fine. Yes, I don't think they would complain if they got an extra couple of billion to play about with to expand out. But I think they're in a solid enough spot. I even said that when Activision and everybody's heads were going. I still said PlayStation are going to be fine. They've got their market nailed.
Right. Well, fellas, I gotta wrap it up. But I'm gonna exit out, Monkey. You can keep going or wrap it up if you want. But appreciate you guys watching. I gotta head out, hang out with the family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Thanks, man. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
Yep.
Yes.
So we've had a good conversation today, guys. I think. Would this be a good time to wrap up for you guys? We'll just head off at the same time. I know, Jerry, it's the middle of the day for you, so you're going to have some things to do. And Duncan and I need to get to bed.
No.
Get out.
Hey, do what you gotta do.
Separate sleeping arrangements. Oh, sorry, guys. No, look, this has been it's been a different show, man. I've liked just sort of winging it here. We've got some good conversations going, but it's like all good things, they have to come to an end. This show probably won't be remembered, but guys, let us know where everyone can find you, anything you're working on, anything you've got planned. Why don't you go first, Duncan?
Oh, me. I can't remember. No, Cloudy with Games. And I didn't even drop my order news. Shall I do a wee hint? Do we do a wee hint?
Go on then, drop a hint.
We're going to be covering in the next couple of days. No, Xbox.
That's a plug, not a hint.
Yes, I know. Over Cloudy with Games, the hints are GFN are doing some really interesting things, and we'll be talking about them really, really soon. And the information is already out there. And Xbox, part of it is out there. There's a tweet yesterday. They've got 2 games in development, which are cloud native. One is a game reconfirmation of the Hideo Kojima. Yeah, cloud game which was meant to go somewhere else, and they're also making a cloud MMO. Yep. So it's going to be fun there.
Excellent. Intrigued.
More grinding.
Yes, more grinding.
Let's see how long I last with that one. Jerry, my good man, I know people know you're with us now, but you still have GTP.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
people know what's going on there.
GTP still trucking along. There's a lot more local focus, but I'm having a lot of fun. Just put up some frame rate videos for Cyberpunk and other things. And CGX, that Stadia Cyberpunk video was a lot of fun. We got that up, and I'm currently working on a medium gameplay for the gameplay channel. I'm working on medium comparison for Luna and GFN, and we've got the GFN versus Shadow latency video that I'm working on as well. So I'll have those coming out here pretty soon.
Yeah, so when the news isn't coming, yep, I am sort of doing the same thing as Jerry right now. Have another latency video that should be out tomorrow, along with the recap, so you can actually get the cloud news tomorrow rather than here tonight. What else are we working on?
Man, you got to take a break with the latency after. You're going to need a break soon, but the videos are awesome. So
No, they are. They're fun to make. See, once you see the final product come together, you're like, oh, damn, that was hard, but we made it. No, listen, everyone that's tuned in tonight, thank you so much for sticking with us. Sorry about the delay, the confusion. We nearly sent a search party out for Ace. To you two guys, thank you for sticking with us through what was a very different show. It has been a lot of fun. Thank you once again, everyone that's watching, and we'll see you next week, hopefully in a more professional manner. Thank you now. Bye-bye.
You're meant to click the button now, Helm, to close it off.
I nearly left. Instead of ended.
We're still live. We're